Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to break down one of the most fundamental concepts in all of cybersecurity. Seriously, this is the blueprint for how you protect pretty much everything in your digital world.
So let me just start by asking you a question. When you think about it, everything from your personal photos to your bank account details, it all lives online. So how do you actually keep all that stuff safe from prying eyes?
Well, the answer is to stop thinking about individual passwords and start thinking like an architect. You need to build a digital fortress. And lucky for us, there's a time-tested blueprint for doing exactly that.
That blueprint is called the CIA Triad. And no, not that CIA. This stands for the three core pillars of information security: confidentiality, integrity, and availability.
Okay, so let's dive into the first pillar of our fortress, confidentiality. At its heart, this is all about keeping your secrets, well, secret. To put it simply, confidentiality is just the promise that only the right people can see the information. You know, think of it like a super high security vault. You have the key and nobody else does. Period.
But of course, attackers have all sorts of ways they try to pick that lock. This can be surprisingly low-tech, like literally digging through your trash. Yeah, that happens. Or it can be high-tech, like eavesdropping on your network. And then there's this really clever tactic called social engineering.
Now, what's so wild about social engineering is that it doesn't attack your computer. It attacks you. It's the art of psychological manipulation, of tricking a person into just willingly handing over the keys to the vault.
All right, let's move on to our second pillar and see how this builds on the first one. See, it's not enough for your data to just be secret. You also have to be absolutely sure the data inside your fortress is true and trustworthy, and that is integrity.
So integrity is the guarantee that your information is accurate and hasn't been messed with without your knowledge. You can think of it like the little foil seal on a bottle of medicine. It's proof that what's inside hasn't been tampered with. In the digital world, this means your bank is showing you the correct account balance, not one some attacker has secretly changed.
Now, attackers try to break that digital seal by altering information, maybe impersonating someone you trust, or by using these really sneaky interception techniques like on-path and replay attacks.
An on-path attack, you might have heard this called a man-in-the-middle attack, is basically when a hacker secretly puts themselves right in the middle of a digital conversation. They can read and even change the messages as they go back and forth.
And a replay attack, oh, that's even more devious. An attacker will capture a valid message from you, say your login info, and then they just replay it later to trick the system into thinking it's you and letting them in.
So, let's recap. Our data is secret, and we know it's true. But all of that is completely useless if we can't get to it when we actually need it. And this brings us to the third and final pillar of our fortress: availability. Availability is the simple idea that authorized users can get to their data and systems whenever they need to, without any interruption. It means the front gate of your fortress is always open for you, but it's still locked tight for everyone else.
The threats here are anything that can block that gate or just shut down the whole fortress. This includes things like malicious denial of service attacks that just flood your systems with junk traffic, but also totally non-malicious stuff like a simple power outage or your hardware just failing.
And this is exactly why one of the best defenses for availability is something called redundancy. It just means having backup systems, backup power, backup everything, all ready to take over instantly if the main ones fail. It's all about making sure there's no downtime.
All right, so we've got our blueprint and we know the major threats. Now, let's talk about defense. How do we actually place the guards and reinforce the walls to stop these specific attacks?
Okay, first up, let's think back to that psychological manipulation stuff we talked about. What do you think is the single most effective way to defend against social engineering attacks, the ones that target people, not machines? The answer is user education. It's not a piece of software. It's a smart person. Teaching people how to spot phishing emails, how to recognize a suspicious request, that is the absolute key to stopping these kinds of attacks in their tracks.
Okay, next question. What about those digital eavesdroppers? How do we stop the bad guys who are trying to intercept our communications with those on-path and replay attacks?
Now this is where technology is our best friend. The answer is encryption. Strong encryption, like the kind that secures most websites you visit, basically scrambles all your data. So even if an attacker manages to grab it, all they're going to get is a bunch of unreadable gibberish.
And last one, let's look at availability. Of these 4 possible risks, which one poses the most direct, in-your-face threat to your ability to actually get to your systems and your data? Yep, that's right, it's a power outage. This is just a classic availability threat because it directly kills your system's uptime. If there's no power, there's no access. It's really as simple as that.
And this really shows how these three pillars aren't just separate ideas. They're an interconnected system. You need confidentiality to keep things secret, integrity to keep them true, and availability to keep them accessible. You absolutely need all three to have a truly secure fortress.
So, we'll leave you with this final thought. Now that you understand the blueprint, confidentiality, integrity, and availability, take a second to look at your own digital life through this lens. And just ask yourself, how strong are your walls?